So thank you again for attending How to Drive Wellness Through the Use of PropTech with Fitspot and Equiem. I'm going to go ahead and get started by introducing our host. She is one of the co-founders and the COO of Fitspot, Sammy Courtright.
Thanks, Alexa. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And Gab, I'm really excited to be hosting a webinar with a fellow Australian.
I know, right? Thanks for having me, Sammy. Super excited to be here as well.
Wonderful. So before we dive on in, for everyone that's new to Fitspot, I'll give you a quick breakdown of what we do, and then I'll flip it over to Gab to do an intro on that as well. So here at Fitspot, we activate workplaces through wellness-centric amenities. And we really do this three ways. One, we handle all of the logistics management. So we know the biggest pain about bringing amenities on site is the logistics, the coordination, the marketing. We take care of all of that for you. Our clients like to refer to us as their external amenities provider. Second of all, the on-site services. So we do anything from physical fitness classes like yoga to kickboxing to educational workshops and really fun community-driven events like healthy happy hours featuring kombucha or pop-up juice and smoothie bars. And then finally, and probably most importantly, is our technology. Our technology is the glue that holds everything together. And the reason why Gab is joining us on this webinar is because we can integrate seamlessly with platforms like Equiem. So Gab, how you doing? Let's talk about Equiem.
Sure, thanks, Sammy. So Equiem is a global leader in tenant experience solutions. Our mission since we started in 2011 has really been to work with leading landlords to help them unlock value in their assets. And we kind of passionately believe that there is a ton of value within real estate that has nothing to do with bricks and mortar and everything to do with the people that occupy the spaces. How do we do that? Equiem has a tech platform which is both web and app, and it's white labeled for our clients or the buildings. And the platform itself is like a remote control for the building, right? So you know, the users of our app would use it to buy coffee, book a yoga class, you know, find out what's on in their building, connect with other people in their building. And so that's one aspect of what we do. And the second aspect, which we think is equally important, is this engagement ecosystem that we bring to the table, and that's content, services, and amazing partnerships, just like Fitspot, so that when we're working with our landlords, we can bring the best in breed in each category in terms of the sorts of providers and the sorts of services that they want to bring, and really help bring their engagement strategy to life.
Awesome. So how many markets are you live in?
We're across 4 countries, Sammy. We started in Australia, as you've already mentioned. Platforms rolled out across 60 million square feet of real estate. And we have about 135,000 active users. So yeah, a bunch of people using the platform every day, which is really exciting. And it also gives us a lot of insight and data into what tenants want, what things are consistent across different buildings and communities, but also what things are really unique to a given community.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So before we dive in here, we do have 2 polls that are live that we would love for our audience to participate in. So if you click on the right-hand side of the big marker, you will see the polls tab light up. Go ahead and start filling out your response to those polls. The number 1 question that we have here is, are you / your tenants currently using technology at your property? Yes or no? And then the second poll that we have that is also live is, does your property offer amenities? Yes, some, but I would like more. No, but I would like them. Or no, I'm not interested. And Gab and I will address those responses to the polls throughout the webinar. So if you want to go ahead and fill that out, you can get a head start. And we're going to go ahead and set the scene for this webinar, Gab. So the conversation that we want to begin with is, what have landlords typically provided when it comes to amenities in the workplace? So in the past, we know that gyms have always been an asset, whether they be in the basement or glorious, full floor. But that's definitely been something that's been checking the box. Water coolers are also included there. And then, Gab, help us define what end-of-trip facilities are.
End-of-trip facilities is a term that's probably primarily used in the Australian market, but it is we do see them in the 4 markets that we operate in. Essentially, what it is landlords providing a place, typically converted basement or parking space that they reclaim for cyclists or exercisers to use. So the sorts of things that you would have in an end-of-trip facility is, bike parking space, and you might even have bike servicing and bike tools. But you certainly have showers, you certainly have lockers, and we see a range, but typical investment in terms of this sort of facilities, in the $1 to $2 million range, and it typically be put in the basement or a non-lettable space. But in Australia, in particular, this is ubiquitous type amenity. Like every single premium and grade A building has this kind of offering.
Yeah, it must just be really requested. That must be what the tenants want in those spaces.
Well, I think there's a few reasons. I mean, catering to cyclists, I think cycling is the new golf, and more and more tenants, as we know, are looking for their landlords to actually be the provider of this amenity. Whereas I think in the past, I mean, to your kind of initial question, what have landlords typically provided? I mean, from my perspective, not much, and why? Because it really wasn't needed, because the whole employee comfort piece has traditionally sat very firmly with the tenant or the company. It's kind of only recently that the whole product of real estate has evolved and continues to evolve pretty rapidly beyond kind of, as a landlord, I have a bricks and mortar offering. And now as a landlord, I need a hospitality type experience offering. So I would have said, even the points that you've got here on the screen that's kind of still the recent past from what we're seeing. Landlords traditionally have actually almost just focused on utilities. It's like air conditioning, cleaning, security, maybe receptionist or a concierge. Gyms end of trip is growing, I think, and water coolers. And I think we're now headed towards a lot more than that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So with the recent past that we've just defined, we've seen this, and I know that you have too, the outdated systems. It's traditionally very fragmented. And the reason why, honestly, Fitspot is a business today is because we recognized how fragmented this space was. To operate anything within a property, just focusing on amenities, for example, you have to go to one vendor for one solution, another vendor for anything on site, and it's just not scalable or effective. And I think there's that real need to feel like you can offer something that's competitive in this market, right? WeWork and Industrious and all those incredible co-working spaces have really built out these collaborative, interactive communities. And we recognize that a lot of properties want to compete with that and offer something unique for their tenants. And to touch on technology, I mean, that on-demand world, everything, I think we were talking about this just offline beforehand. It's wonderful how connected we are. However, at times, it's very lonely being so connected. And so let's talk on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of these are the real drivers to why the kind of the product of real estate is changing, and even the customer of real estate is changing. I think tech has completely revolutionized the way that we work. We actually don't need to go to work anymore.
Right.
You've got, you're talking here about a large millennial workforce. It's really almost the gig economy. US workers are going to be kind of contract or consultancy based. People are changing jobs far more frequently. And what that means if you're an employer is this kind of war for talent environment. And that has just driven this huge shift in workplace expectations, and so what we used to be really happy with as a staff member, which was a water cooler and a coffee pot, is now kind of like, I expect all the things. And when you then layer on that, I think from a market dynamic point of view, then layer on top of that, the companies want more flexibility in their lease terms. And you mentioned Industrious, there's WeWork, there's Knotel. Unarguably, there's a demand for turnkey space as a service, right? And so you put all that together, and what does that equal? Landlords now need to help their tenants. They need to provide real estate that actually helps their tenants attract and retain talent. And they need to provide real estate that kind of, comes with this level of amenity, hospitality, and service.
Yeah. When we initially got started, we were selling directly to companies, and then we went through that process with the companies of them selecting workspaces and where they wanted to relocate or start a new lease. And that's exactly why we began that property outlet, because there was that, well, we expect this and this from our property that we're moving into, and it was just above and beyond what was usually expected, right? So there was that need to provide these types of services, and it's great. I mean, I can say as someone that owns an office space, it's wonderful to have all of these amenities and have that connectivity.
It's an exciting time. Tons of change really rapidly, but it is, to your point, a challenging time if you're a landlord, because it is, how do you facilitate it? How do you operationalize it? It's a whole new skill set and capability that's really more like a hotel provider or hospitality. Suddenly you've got to be a great events manager, great marketing, great at content, great at community management, because your customers changed. You're no longer dealing with just the CEOs or one key, person per tenancy. You suddenly have to somehow interact and engage with the, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in your building. So it's a new ball game, and it's definitely, here in the US, everyone's talking about this kind of amenities, war, and definitely a lot of landlords experimenting with a lot of different things, which is really exciting. And ways in which landlords can differentiate themselves and really reduce downtime by offering some of these things, for sure.
Yeah. And that leads us perfectly into the now. So what does it look like today? I know we've covered this on the previous slide, but some examples here. Lobby activations is something I do want to point out. Isn't it crazy, Gab, how much that's changed? A lobby used to be just literally where you'd go check in, security, whatever it may be. Now they feel like hotel lobbies, very interactive, dynamic spaces where people may even be inclined to work or set up a little workstation there. It's really exciting.
It is exciting, and it kind of, historically, you look back at these huge spaces that were being maintained, cleaned, kept air conditioned, that are just completely, radically underutilized. And I think the change is happening at a different pace in different markets. New York in particular is obviously highly security conscious. So different buildings, are able to, I guess, do different things. But we're certainly in Australia, parts of Europe, and in parts of the US, seeing a real trend towards complete lobby refurbishments with meeting space, drop-in areas, a cafe that might service the lobby and the building. And it's more like walking into a hotel. We get asked by some of our clients sometimes to even provide what's the right music, what's the right scent, how should my lobby smell, but I think activating the lobby is really important as well. Make it a place that people can gather together around sporting events or things that are on that people are interested in.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to note at this stage that for those of you that are listening and thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be incredible to bring these types of services to my property or for my property to offer these services, but I simply don't have the space. I want to put it out there that about 80% of Fitspot's clients that we service today have absolutely no designated area for amenity services to take place. So we're activating rooftops, lobbies, conference rooms, unleased spaces to really bring the property to life. So we can get going within 6 to 8 weeks. So for any of you that are listening that are like, oh man, this isn't for us, or maybe this is something that's not suitable, we can always make it work with the space that you've got today. We really firmly believe that the whole attitude towards space, the 4 walls are really evolving, and activating with what you're working with today not only makes it scalable and far more cost effective, but it brings the space to life. And it's important to note here too that a lot of the services, while yes, we've got the fitness clubs and the yoga and meditation, it's not just about fitness, and there's really this holistic approach to wellness today, and that includes community events and social events and items like corporate headshots. We really like to take that holistic approach to wellness here at Fitspot, as we know that some individuals may never, throw on Lycra and do a yoga class with their colleagues. However, they may attend a healthy happy hour. They may attend an educational workshop in regards to financial wellness. So it's really about creating a diverse amenity offering that attracts that wide range of demographics.
Yeah, I would echo that, Sammy, in terms of you definitely don't need a designated space. And in fact, I think that's something that's quite challenging at the moment for landlords as they try and work out how to commercialize and how to operationalize some of this stuff. And in fact, we would counsel our clients that you absolutely do not have to take a whole floor of, lettable area and convert it into amenity space and hope to make that back on increased rents. That might be a good choice for your building, and certainly an effective strategy for some, but it doesn't need to be every single building that you own. And you can absolutely do so much with so little, lobby space, vacant floors. We often, there's always tenant movements. So activating, white box space is really cool. And in fact, the amount of times that we've, that there's been a yoga class, on a space that's resulted in some leasing inquiry is almost fun. The other thing is, you're really trying to actually create a stickiness and a connected community within your building and across your portfolio. And so the more that you can link tenants together, the better. And we've had a lot of success actually working with tenants to open up their spaces, because inside these buildings, tenants have great, huge boardrooms, huge event spaces. So, you can actually connect the tenants to each other, utilize their spaces to run your events, which involves them even further in the community and allows them to meet other people. It's really, very effective in our experience.
Yeah, and it's nice to have that cross-pollination. We actually really advise that tenants host those services like you just alluded to, because it's really fun to have other people in your space. They've noticed that social aspect where it's traditionally like, oh, this is just my employees, but what about floor 14 or floor 21? Maybe we can get them involved and, host something locally within the building to really get to know your neighbors.
100%. And, you mentioned earlier about technology and, I think one of the biggest parts of wellness that we can facilitate is that feeling of connectedness. We share more information and we're on our technology. So theoretically, we're more connected than ever before. But of course, actually, as a generation, we're lonelier and more anxious than we've ever been before. So, we know that if we can facilitate genuine connections within these buildings and genuine relationships, that drives happiness, which of course drives productivity, which of course is where the rubber hits the road for a lot of the companies that occupy these spaces.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that really brings us into a conversation that I've been dying to have about, some of that softer ROI, right? Like, how do you feel towards your company? Have you made new friendships? Those are such key stats that we can collect through technology to better shape how effective an amenities offering or program is going within a building. Those hard numbers are very important to, engagement, utilized space, but some of those softer, how people feel greatly impacts their performance at work and how they feel about work.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously different things that are important to people at different stages of their life, but we know that at the moment, STEM type talent is in high demand, and that often skews younger. And we know that in that younger demographic, experience, how they feel about their company, the purpose, the amenities, they'll almost all say that that's more important even than salary. So yeah, it's a huge factor.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Gab, let's take a look at the polls. Let's use
Sure.
this opportunity. I'm going to click on this and see what's going on here. Okay, so the first poll question that we had is, are you/your tenants currently using technology? 85% said yes. That is a good stat to have. And of course, now my brain is thinking, well, what technology are you using? Do you enjoy it? Is it interactive? You know, all of those questions. And then moving down to the second one, does your property offer amenities? 48% said yes. However, 52% said yes, but I would like more. So that's good to hear. I think it's really wonderful that amenities, period, are just being offered, you know, across the board. However, when I hear the word more, I'm usually thinking that those amenities are quite blanket offerings, maybe something that's not customized to maybe the demographics there. And something that we have found really effective that we do with all of our clients at Fitspot is we do survey all of the tenants and occupants in the building to better understand, hey, if we were to bring amenities on site, what would you even be interested in attending? There's no point in spending money on rolling out, you know, this incredible program that no one shows up to. You have to learn what people want. And Gab, to our conversation that we had offline, it's consistently iterative. There's got to be feedback loops to evolve and to change the services that are being offered.
Yeah, 100%. I'm quite surprised that there's no C's, no, but I would like amenities.
Right.
So that's either all the people on this call are in really good buildings. Yeah, that's quite interesting. But you're right. The word amenities is pretty broad.
It's broad, right? And you could say maybe parking location. You know, people try to spin amenities, you know, in many ways possible, right? To say that they offer something, but it's how robust they really are. And of course, that's where I would always dig in. And do you feel like it's giving you that holistic approach to that work-life harmony that people are seeking? You know, there's no longer this work-life balance, right? Because we spend more time at work than ever before. So how can we bring amenities that help make that, you know, part of your day-to-day?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things, you know, you talked about data. One of the things that we've actually just finished a global occupier survey, and we'll publish the results later this year. But we asked people, you know, lots of different questions about what was important to them, what drove satisfaction, what they thought that the landlord of the building that they were in should emphasize more. And one of the really interesting things that has come up universally is it was a crazy number, like 96% of everyone surveyed said that landlords should place more emphasis on convenience and comfort and amenity. So people, you know, are seeking this, I think, from their building. And one of the other interesting things that came out of that was convenience trumped community as a concept, right? I think, you know, one of the things we actually look at across the 8,000 or so companies that are connected to our platform. The top 5 users are all law firms, which is really fascinating, right? And the usage profile, you know, we provide our landlords with dashboards so that they can kind of understand, you know, a little bit deeper and profile from a demographic, sociographic, and preference point of view, who is in their building, what do they want, you know, because otherwise you truly are flying blind, and you can spend a ton of money providing, you know, amenities in inverted commas without really knowing whether it's something that people want, something they're going to use, something that they value. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that we look at, say, those law firms and how they're using, or the staff more so of those law firms and how they're using the platform. It's all about, getting things, you know, delivered, getting things done for you. It's all about make my life easier, which I think also, you know, it factors into what we see from a wellness perspective in terms of what people want, you know, because everyone knows that they should be going to the gym, right? But it's incredibly hard to get to the gym. So if you can bring the gym to my building by way of an occasional fitness class, or even better, like, how guilty do I feel that I haven't had my skin checked, my eyes checked, my hearing checked? All of these things that we should be doing that we don't have time for. You know, bringing those kind of things into the building, the flu shot, the blood drive, they're really, really popular. But even though I would say some things are universal, and we definitely see some trends, and we see huge interest in wellness, everywhere, right? But each community is different as well. And so it's important to have some way of capturing data on who's in your building, and then, being able to analyze that data and use it to actually curate the right program that's going to suit your community.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because Fitspot's live in 15 markets, and when we work with multiple assets across a portfolio that are in different markets, there is a perception that, well, what's being offered in Los Angeles should be the same as what's being offered in Chicago and New York. So there's that seamless amenity experience. And while I agree with that and completely understand that, it's interesting, to really survey the individuals and say, hey, how's this program going? We may find that what's happening in Chicago is very different to what they want in Los Angeles, very different to what they want in Seattle, New York. And it's really about taking that feedback and being iterative with it. And what we love about our programming, to be totally honest, Gab, is that we are very flexible. What's working one month, if it's not working the next month, you can change it out. All of our services are interchangeable. So from the yoga classes to the educational workshops to the wellness experiences, if it's not working, you're not locked into something, because there's nothing worse than being like, oh, great, so we've got this for another year.
Yeah, exactly. And we talk to our clients about being almost experimental, and it's interesting because with real estate, the process of, say, building a building is almost polar opposites to the process of building a community or building an engagement program. One is fixed from the get-go, really. By the time the shovel hits the dirt, you know exactly who's going to occupy at least 30% of that building, all the fixtures, the fittings, the design. There's not much of it that's malleable. On the other hand, building a community is an entirely blank sheet of paper when you start, because actually step one is getting everyone connected in a way that you can actually start a dialogue.
Right.
And step two, even though people might tell you that they want something, you need to triangulate that with what they will actually use and what they will consume. And then, to your point, to complicate things even further, what they might use, once or twice might lose, they may lose in. And so there are some services that I think are evergreen, and that's really around the convenience things. But in terms of experiential surprise and delight, that's got to be more evolving. And be prepared to kind of change that up based on being a bit more dynamic. But that's all part of the fun, right? And what Equiem is trying to do is make that, turn that thing which sounds really complicated and is a very different business to what real estate has been previously, into something that's actually really easy and something that can still be quite systematic, quite programmatic, and so that you can, dial up or dial down how much you want to offer. You can switch your programming around based on demand, and you can, operate it all through this kind of seamless, frictionless technology, so you don't have to be kind of dealing with all the users directly. It's a self-service scenario, which is really important, right? Because otherwise it would just be an overwhelming amount of work.
Oh, I cannot even imagine. And so we've been talking about kind of this very flexible asset light approach to bringing amenities. As you mentioned, you really highly advise your clients that say, oh, I don't have space, to say, well, let's look into that. What truly are you working with? And this is something I wanted to bring up. So this is a Fitspot. This is a multi-purpose, flexible amenity space. If you notice, it's just a room. They can be as small as 10 by 20, but we're working on this currently with a client in Seattle to roll this out. And this is a great cost-effective solution to bring a space to life. And it's also a designated space for these amenities to take place, but it's not remodeling the entire floor. It's really creating this sanctuary, this escape.
I think it's amazing. We've already talked about this, Sammy, but I think it's such a great offering, and I'm so excited for you guys to bring this to market. Equiem quite frequently gets asked, could you guys just help me manage this amenity space?
Right.
We're really we're a technology provider. You know, we're the platform, we're the engine through which all of this can come to life. You know, we can give you the data, the tools, the tech, and the partnership ecosystem to do it. But, you know, this kind of actual amenity management and service is something that I think our clients will love. And it's clever, right? Because, you know, how do you offer this in a commercial and cost-effective way? You know, let's not forget that in real estate, you know, we need to answer to our investors. You know, we need to create the most profitable and valuable assets that we can. And so we need to be smart in finding ways to meet the needs of our customers, which are, of course, these tenants and consumers that have different expectations of their workplaces, but doing that in a way that still makes sense. And I think you guys are nailing it with this. So well done.
Thanks. It's really fun to work on projects like this. I mean, to build this sanctuary with, you know, a nap pod, a book room, you know, there's kombucha on tap in the back, a live green wall on the right, and then all of the lighting is, you know, optimal lighting, the air, the windows, you know, things that you can't see that would be on the other side. It's really dynamic, and even the interchangeable floors that is currently set up to host, say, like a meditation or a yoga, but that can be swapped out to something a little bit more supportive for, say, an educational workshop or a movie screening or even some type of presentation. It's been really fun working with individuals that are very creative in this space. I think previously the perception of, oh, great, now we have to designate, you know, a room to something, you know, will I even get the return on this? It's nice to see that there's been a bit of a change of tune, and people are recognizing that, yes, it's a nice to have, of course it is, but it's nearly becoming a must-have in order to really excite individuals to want to occupy space in your property. And it really goes beyond, you know, just commercial as well. I guess retail, this is applicable for. We even see this being rolled out in airports, right? So there's many different uses that these fit spots can take place. And what's great is that it's a template. You tell us the size and we'll come in and consult and fit it out. And then obviously service the entire thing. So service all of the amenity offerings that are going on in there as well. So let's dive into the specifics on PropTech and how it can help properties bring amenities to life. So I've got a question for you, Gab. Why did you start Equiem?
That's a good one. And yeah, happy to tell that story. So late 2010, I was introduced through a mutual friend to a guy called Lorenz Grollo, who his family over 3 generations had developed and built most of Melbourne's landmark towers, both in the office space and the residential. So really prolific private family real estate developer and builder. His family at the time owned an asset called Rialto, which was Melbourne's 2nd tallest office tower. So you're talking, you know, hugely iconic building. 1 million square foot office, but with some retail and some services as well. And when I met Lorenz, the building was 25 years old. And like all buildings go through these various stages of the life cycle, right? And so when Lorenz met me, he said, look, the building's 25 years old. I've got serious vacancy risk. You know, we've got some rent roll coming. I need to reposition this asset. I need to regenerate this asset. And I need to make sure that I can continue to compete with these new shiny buildings that are being developed, you know, just down the road. And Lorenz had a $200 million redevelopment plan that then, you know, took place over the following years. But what he spoke to me about that he was really passionate about is how technology could be leveraged to really support his repositioning and redevelopment strategy. And he said, you know, I want to create a digital ecosystem. I want to create a hyperlocal digital community within Rialto to bring this whole thing to life, right? And he had, I think, you know, realistically, kudos to him. He was way ahead of his time in his thinking, because, you know, no one else was really thinking that the customer was the worker. You know, this is 7-8 years ago. Right. You know, and Lorenz said to me, I still remember to this day, Sammy, his actual wish list, which was, number one, there are 4,000 people that work here in this building, right? They come to this building every single day they spend more time in this building than they do anywhere else. I want to know who they are, right? I'm the landlord of this building. I want to know exactly who they are. I want to know what they want. I want to, because if I can understand them, I can service them better and I can retain them, right? And I can use the information to really guide my whole redevelopment strategy. So that was number one on his wish list. Number two, he spoke about how do we supercharge the retailers, right? So this is a building with 60 different companies in it across 1 million square foot of lettable office space, and then about 18 retailers ranging from like Chef's Hatted restaurant on level 55 to Sam the shoe shine guy in the lobby, and John the dry cleaner. And so he and as with any landlord, in a lot of cases, you're actually, you're propping up these retailers, or they're getting discounted rent because they're essentially providing an amenity or a service to the tenants, right? So it's important that those services are being utilized. And so he wanted to supercharge the retailers and make sure that there was this profitable ecosystem, right? And the third thing, which I think maybe my favorite, was he said, how do we provide this unparalleled level of service so that no one ever wants to leave? And he really was thinking like a hotelier, and he referenced that as well. He talked about red carpet treatment, desk delivery, silver service, it's just, so it was an exciting proposition. I said to him, look, give me 12 or 14 weeks to do a deep dive. I was not from real estate. So, I was, starting fresh. And so I actually spent a lot of time with the property management team. I met every single tenancy in the building. I met with every single retailer. And at the end of that process, just realized how big the opportunity was. And, frankly, how low the bar was. The property management team had 72 names on an Excel spreadsheet. They had a bunch of access cards, but no idea, how to tie them to users, and really very limited view of who was in the building. The retailers were desperate to promote themselves to the people in the building, but had no channel to do so.
Right.
And they would create these funky little flyers and want the property management team to distribute them, and none of that was working. And then the users, right, the occupants, the workers, they universally had no idea what was in the building. So nobody knew that there was a gym and a day spa on level 3. Nobody knew. Nobody knew that Sam the shoe shine guy was actually like the world's expert in shoe repair for like Manolo Blahniks. Like it was just this kind of crazy, disconnected little world. And when you think about it, even a 1 million square foot tower is the size of a small town. Like you've got 4,000 people in there. It's a whole little universe, right? It's a vertical village. And so we had, after that exercise, not only were we really excited, but we had a really good idea of what users wanted. And we had a list of requirements for a digital platform that would connect all of this and bring it to life. And that was probably when things started to get pretty interesting, because we started looking around for who could provide it. Surely this has been done before, right? It's got to be a solved problem. And it was in the process of talking to, the Jones Lang LaSalle's, the CBREs of the world, and the other major REITs in Australia that we realized that this technology didn't exist. And realized that this was, a bigger problem than just Rialto, because we spoke to the other real estate groups and they said, tenant engagement is our biggest challenge. Yep. And if you build this platform, we want it for our buildings as well. And so, the rest is kind of history. It's all been really easy, smooth sailing since then, Sammy. No, we grew into Australia pretty rapidly. We're actually in 1 in every 3 premium and grade A office towers in Australia. So we have 30% market penetration there, which is huge. And we're really privileged to work on some amazing signature assets with some amazing owners that are really passionate about creating an amazing customer experience for their users. And then in the last 18 months, we've been really focused on growing into both the US and the UK and expanding our footprint here. And I've relocated to New York 12 months ago to oversee that growth, which is super exciting as well. So that's why we are here, Sammy. That was where we started. One landlord, one building.
So then is Equiem considered a tenant amenity?
This is a really interesting question. Yes and no. I mean, Equiem's platform and ecosystem creates a whole world of amenity that never existed before, or amplifies amenity that already existed and allows it to be better utilized. But when, sometimes people say they want an app. I mean, and obviously we provide an app, that's what we do. But I have to kind of say to people, the app is not the amenity.
Right.
The app is not the end game. The app is the tool through which people are going to consume whatever the amenity is, right? So, the app makes it frictionless. So in a small part, the app is part of the overall offering.
Right.
The app is branded. And so the app is, I guess the experience, that the user is having with your brand. But it's only a small part of it. And, I like to talk, because in real estate, we are a physical community. We are a physical place. It's a destination. Right. It's a physical experience, more so than it is a digital experience, right? And so I like to liken it to an airline or to a hotel. Why do I choose? I mean, I'm completely fanatic about flying one particular airline. And it's, they do have an app, but that's not why I picked them, right? I picked them because of the service that I receive when I walk in, the loyalty points and the perks and the upgrades, and the lounges that they offer. And that's, that's how I would describe it, right? So the app is part of the amenity, but it is not the amenity. The things that we can bring to bear on a building, including partners like Fitspot, but, a whole host of other things, all of that combined can obviously elevate the amenity enormously. And, the work that we do with landlords is about elevating that amenity in a way that makes their tenants love the building. That's the goal.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So we've talked about how it can help, and really the beginning of Equiem. I think this is a wonderful example, Gab, because we share this client. And so everyone that's listening can better understand how Fitspot and Equiem have been working together to service Adams & Co. in New York. And what a phenomenal client. We were talking offline that it's really wonderful working with individuals that are so forward thinking and know that this is something that they want to offer for their tenants to participate in. And it's been nothing but an incredibly successful program across the board.
Yeah, Adams & Co. are a fantastic client and really forward thinking. I mean, multi-generational, real estate business in Manhattan, with a bunch of buildings across Midtown and the Garment District. But, and in some ways, it's really fascinating that a group like Adams really does get it so much. And they're really focused on creating a great experience for their tenants. They're really focused on getting everyone connected online so that they can extract data and better understand their customers. They're also really focused on creating a community and a brand and an experience that transcends any one building in the Adams portfolio and goes across all of the buildings. And I think that they're being really clever in the way that they're delivering the services as well. With your classes, I know that our platform sits across all of their buildings in Manhattan so that they can have a bird's eye view of their entire community, but they're selective about which assets they activate. Yep. So that any tenant in any Adams & Co. building can come to a Fitspot class in one of the buildings, right? Yep. And all of that is facilitated through the tech. So people RSVP online, you guys can see who's coming. You check them in with our event check-in app when they arrive, and Adams & Co.'s got all this magnificent data on who's utilizing these amenities and how much they're valuing them. So it is super exciting client, and they're doing they're doing so much more than just yoga classes as well.
The healthy happy hours are a big hit, featuring kombucha. A self-defense workshop we had 100% engagement in that, which is great. It really shows how open they are to the diversity of the service offerings, and to talk about getting that feedback and that data. They've really used that, and this is where Fitspot consults. We take that data and build out the future of their programming. So clearly if self-defense is getting, 100% engagement, that is something that people are really interested in. So how do we make that a series, that people feel like they can build upon their current skills that they learned in the first service? So yeah, they are definitely really open and intrigued with that data to start improving and iterating and evolving what they're offering today.
Yeah, it's exciting. And we just completed a data capture exercise with them as well that covered a bunch of different services and amenities, but, some really interesting insights in there about what is the most desirable. And, being able to break that down around, is it a decision maker that's saying this, which tenant does this person work for that's answering this survey, and looking at on a tenant by tenant basis, how are things being consumed? Because I think the old model, of course, all of this is about reducing downtime and retaining tenants, right? So the old model of I can just talk to my tenants when their lease is about to expire
right.
is dead. So landlords now need to be smarter about the way that they're building a relationship with their tenants from the minute they move in. In fact, before they move in, and along the whole journey, being able to track, are they growing or are they shrinking? How much are they enjoying the amenities? And I think as well, the old model of surveying tenants used to be, we would sit down with a tenant, once a year, one person in each tenancy, and find out what they thought was important. I mean, how flawed is that? Because of course, we know that one person in each tenancy is a gatekeeper, has an agenda,
Sure.
and the information that they're going to give is completely skewed, and we see it all the time in every single one of our buildings. We'll get told, oh no, people in our company won't be interested in that, and you kind of go, well, actually 600 of them are already using it. So
it's not adding up.
But having asset managers be able to contact us and say, tell me everything you know about this tenant, so that when we go in to present to them about why they should stay, we've actually got real life information about what their team members are enjoying, how they're finding this building to be really adding to their productivity and their sense of engagement with their workplace.
Yeah, and that's, that feedback from a tenant perspective, that has been something that we've really been focusing on in regards to landlords will ask us, hey, who's the most engaged, who's the least engaged? And obviously the data can support that. But then how can we offer those tenants specific services, just for them, so exclusively for them? So, hey, Fitspot's coming to, your floor and they're going to offer XYZ services, chair massages, manicures, corporate headshots, you name it, because they're really putting that relationship first of like, hey, I want to care for them. I know that their lease is coming up, and we feel like efforts like providing these exclusive services will make a difference, and they sure do.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, the other ironic thing, Sammy, is that, we talk about why, you mentioned before, what's the role that technology plays, and is it or is it not the amenity? The other key thing is actually just communicating what's there. So, you and I have been talking an awful lot about, programming and amenities, and, obviously that's a big part of what we both do. But sometimes there's amenities already there, or there's retail or service providers already there. And, what we're very focused on as well is really trying to promote and amplify those services. And we launched recently with another great client of ours, Spear Street Capital, at an urban park of theirs in Philadelphia. And of course, we launched the technology. So we've got a bunch of, we've got over 1,000 people registered after, the first few days, and people are excited and people are using it. One of the first things that we always roll into is a data capture to essentially find out what services are here that you are appreciating. What else would you like to see? How can we make your life better? And overwhelmingly, the feedback was we'd really like a fitness center. Now, this particular asset is split across 5 different office buildings in essentially a park. So the irony is that everybody wants a fitness center, and there's 2 of them on site. Yeah.
Oh man.
And this is a huge frustration for landlords, because they'll be providing that as a service, or part paying it, or potentially there'll be a turnover rent kind of arrangement. And, and landlords often say to me, I did that and nobody used it. But so there are so many elements to this, but sometimes it is just as basic as actually making sure everyone knows about it, and just make really, really easy to click one button and book. That particular fitness center's had a really great increase in their sales, because they've been able to jump on and actually promote themselves directly to the people that are right in their catchment area. So yeah, I mean, I think it's about communicating what's there. It is also about bringing in new amenity and experiences. It's definitely about streamlining the operations, because you would not want to be doing this through Excel spreadsheets or sticky notepads.
We've seen it.
and then the kicker, in my view, for the tech is the data, which is what we've both been talking about. How do you not fly blind? How do you make sure you're spending your money in the right places for the right reasons, and being a little bit strategic about it?
Yeah. And the next slide does allude to the popularity of these services. I think, Gab, we've really highlighted this throughout the webinar today. But the point is naturally that people want it. And then the first question that I always get asked, well, if everyone wants it, then how come everyone's not doing it? Well, because it's really difficult to implement and roll out. That's why we are, that's why we're in business today, is that we recognize that problem is having that scalable amenities solution. So the want and need is there to have this holistic approach to wellness in the workplace. It's just, how are you going to roll it out? Which partner are you going to work with? And then awareness. How are you going to let people know that those services or that those amenities are even being offered in your property? So we're going to open it up to some Q&A. Alexa's going to lead this portion of the Q&A. For those of you that may have to log off right at the top of the hour, thank you very much for joining. As Alexa alluded to, we'll have this recording, but let's answer some questions.
All right, let's see. While people are still submitting their questions, I'm going to go with the first one. We talked a little bit about the technology aspect of wellness, and someone asked how we touched a little bit about the millennial workforce and how they are driving this change in technology. So, Gab, you want to start, or Sammy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, everyone's using technology now.
Sure.
I mean, I think, it's certainly not just millennials, but I think that there is probably an adoption curve that's steeper in the younger generation. But I think the reality is that everyone is used to just pressing a button now to get what they want. And it kind of goes beyond technology. It's about, we don't want to own things anymore. We want to rent them. We want things to be on demand and flexible, which of course is what we're seeing in real estate itself. But it also means that that's the way that these customers inside your buildings really want to consume your building, so we just hear from our users, make it easy, and particularly for those people that might have a responsibility for organizing things for their tenancy. So we do a lot of focus groups for the EAs to really look at the user interface of our technology, how they're interacting with it, make sure that it's so useful. When they want to book space that's in the building, can they do that quickly and easily if they want to add catering to that? And we had, one of those in one of those groups, one of the girls said it's like the EA for the EAs, so the easier you can make this for me, the quicker I can press one button, so when, because these guys are ordering the same cake, they probably have the same team meeting every week or every month. So, people expect the technology as well to do the thinking for them. So, in our technology, you can reorder your favorite order, whether that's the way you have your coffee or the way you have your salad, with just with one button. But that's the expectation these days. That's the expectation, and the expectation is that it's safe, that it's secure, that it's frictionless. That my credit card's stored. And all of this, of course, is expensive and challenging for a real estate owner to try and tackle, which is why obviously having the right provider and partners is so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Alexa, Gab hit the nail on the head there.
Great. Well, another question is wellness amenities in the future. What do we see happening? We've talked about then and now. What do we see happening in 2020, for example?
Well, I think what's interesting about the space is that I still think there is a stigma attached to, say, wellness, of it just being like, oh, I need to burn calories or I need to reduce my BMI. I've seen, and I think we've all seen, this real shift in how people interpret wellness and this holistic approach to wellness, considering items like financial wellness, their social wellness, their stress management, their sleep management. All of those play a huge factor in how you operate day to day. So I'm really excited about innovating with that and creating these programs that are really tailored to individual needs while still providing that community approach and offering, say, something for everyone, but still having that really nice flair of truly understanding what you want and how these, pillars of wellness can all play into building out a really effective solution that works for you, and then introducing your dependents to it, so your family members, significant others, partners. I'm really looking forward to that next stage. Gab, are you excited about anything in particular on the wellness front?
Oh, I think there's a lot of fun stuff coming. I mean, I think we're really only scratching the surface.
Oh, yeah.
I think, you got to look to the most, the really forward-thinking companies. I think when you think about innovation in this space, a lot of it is coming from the really forward-thinking organizations. And they are definitely taking very much a 360-degree view of the staff member or the employee and looking at a full spectrum. You can call it wellness, you can call it engagement, but looking at the full spectrum of what a person needs to be their best, right? And that's what we're now going to see, delivered through buildings. It has to be, because the spaces are becoming, more and more split up.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that's something that I'm actually really excited about, is that there's this perception of wellness being like, oh, that's a nice to have. But when you start taking that more holistic approach and catering it to the individual, occupants or employees within a space, that becomes just a part of life. So I'm very much looking forward to them being like, oh, it sounds like something that's just kind of nice to offer. No, it's something that you need to offer. And I'm looking forward to that true shift.
Yeah, I think you've touched on it, but we're definitely going to see aggregated wellness programs, because, I mean, yes, there are always going to be some large companies, that can afford to build their own spaceships, a la Google, but,
Sure.
But, the trend really, even with a lot of the other large companies, is to move towards more flexible, smaller spaces, shorter term leases, and provide their employees with flexibility to work from anywhere, anytime, membership mode almost, right? And so in that model, I think we're going to get to the point where it's like I wake up in the morning and I choose which building I want to work on based on what's happening there that day, and whether that's a great lunch and learn that's offered, whether it's some fitness programming, but I think then when you think about that, then you need this kind of aggregated wellness. It's definitely almost employee engagement can start to be outsourced and shared amongst all the tenants in a building.
Yeah, agree.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for questions now. So I'm going to wrap it up. Again, thank you all for tuning in on today's webinar. We'll be sending out the full recording later this afternoon, and feel free